am your host, Sarah Sorniak. I'm helping prepare you for your next journey and empower you to take it on. Whether you're searching for a job or facing a roadblock which led you to a detour in life, we're sharing stories that will help you put your best foot forward. Hey there, welcome to another episode where we are talking about the visual power, leveraging video to land your dream job, launch a business, and elevate your brand. And my guest today is Tyler Finley, who is the creative director and founder of Blue Dot Media. I'll have all his contact info linked in the show notes, and I'm sure in the social post as well. You'll be able to touch base with Tyler. It's a great show. He's such a great guy, very talented in the video world. And I think it's really important for anyone that is looking for a job to consider having a video resume of some respect. And we delve into some tips for that and maybe what that content should include, but also too, if you're starting a business or you have a business, having a visual footprint is so important, whether it's across social or on a web. We talk about the importance of that, and it's a great conversation, and I hope you enjoy the episode. I'd like to welcome to the show Tyler, who is the creative director and founder of Blue Dot Media. Tyler, welcome to the show. Thanks for doing it.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure.
So why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so like you said, my name's Tyler and I own Blue Dot Media. We're a video strategy and production company here in Buffalo, hyper-focused on helping businesses and brands leverage video into their business strategies to drive results.
That's awesome. So in some realm, we're seeing a lot of people want to set themselves apart when they're on a job hunt, let's say. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, especially creatives, might want to consider doing like a video resume or something to set them apart. So how do you think individuals can really leverage that video content to create something compelling, especially for their personal brand when they're job hunting?
I think there's a lot of ways to kind of cut that, but I think first off, everybody should do that, especially if you're on a job hunt, which usually means you have a little bit of time. Maybe not the money, but most people have a phone and the ability to at least be consistently getting in front of who you want to see you, and kind of take things into your own hands a little bit. So when I think of like someone who's trying to get a job or at least get people looking at them for a particular industry, make content around this, shows your expertise, shows the way you think about things or how you approach problems, and start trying to get that in front of people who might say, oh, I like the way this person talks. I'm actually hiring for a position, and maybe see if instead of like doing like traditional apply and hope, but even if you do apply and then I say put it on your resume. Like here's all my, if you want to learn more about me, or see, work I've done or the way I think about things in this industry, feel free to check that out. And I think that'll go a long way, especially when it comes to showing your personality, because you can't type out a personality that easily.
So with that kind of realm, I mean, what advice would you give for someone to create something that's like a standout video resume? I mean, those are really good tidbits that you gave, but is there something like maybe showing that personality that you'd recommend, or would it depend on what creative avenue they're going in, whether it's like whether they are a video, filmer, producer, content creator, or whether they're, social marketing avenue? Do you think it should kind of like silo to what your personal interest is or what your expertise is? I think a lot of our viewers, listeners are in like the marketing communications realm, but I mean, I feel like it could go either way.
Sure.
I'm sure that there are a lot of people that get value out of the show lately from different walks of life too. So if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally. I think it really should start with who, and this goes for businesses, people, anything, who you want to see the content and thinking what's going to be valuable to them, and making sure that it has some kind of tie back to what your overall goal is. So if it's trying to get a job in marketing, you should probably talk a little bit about marketing and specific things that people who need help in marketing might need help with. Or it can be like, here's projects we've done in the past or I've worked on, and let me tell you about what we did, and not just show you like the the finished product, but let me talk about how we use that to get that business results. And if it is a visual field, then you definitely should be posting all your visual stuff online. But also, I think it's important to go back to think about who that target audience is. If it's a business owner, sure, a pretty thing might mean a lot to them, but it means more if you can say this pretty thing meant this to this business, and how this project and my expertise and what I did can help your business if you bring me on.
Oh, that's perfect. And kind of going into morphing in a little bit of a different direction. And I think you can definitely speak to this since you own your own business in the video field. If someone is starting their own business, whether, whatever their background is, whether it's marketing, say they're in banking or, some creative field or something, what role do you think video can play in their early marketing efforts? I mean, you
Yeah,
could probably see this with some of the clients that you represent too, from different walks of life with business.
yeah. I mean, typically the businesses I work with are a little bit more deeper in their seasons of being in business. But like you said, I have started my own business. I actually coach a lot of other video agency owners to who are starting and stuff like that. And I think it's important to kind of recognize where you are in your business journey before you start doing things that you're maybe not ready for. So if you're just starting out, you don't necessarily have, usually for businesses, I recommend a brand message video is what I call it, which is like a 2 to 3 minute video saying who you are, what you do, why you're different and stuff like that. And if you're newer, you might not have that all figured out yet. But what I would say, you do have, either a passion for what you're doing, you are doing something. So I'd almost lean on the free and organic stuff like social media and posting consistently, and going back to what we are saying about just think of your target audience, talk about how you can solve their problems. And then once you start building that out and you start learning your processes and actually start working with more clients, you can start kind of fine tuning what your messaging is and what your process is. And then you get down to like testimonials are huge and things like that. But I think you don't want to go too far without figuring out the foundations of your business and your process.
So that was going to be like my next question. What would you recommend as the first initial videos? Anything else that you would add to that other than like really introducing themselves, introducing their brand or their brand promise or any of those aspects?
Yeah, I think a lot of times it's important to think about the customer first, or who your ideal audience is, and try not to spend too much time talking about yourself and here's what we do, here's what we sell, and just talk about things that they're having problems with. So say you do waxing or something like that. You can talk about how you're great at waxing and you use really safe products and things like that, but a lot of people don't really care about what you're using. They want to know, like, hey, when you come in, if you hate coming to get your getting waxed because it hurts, let me tell you how I actually help that, or what I do differently that helps, things like that. So I think it's a lot of just talking about different problems that your ideal client has and how you can solve them uniquely. But then going deeper and going kind of off social media, I think of there's social media content, which is kind of what I just talked about. Then there's video assets. And I think video assets are kind of meant to stay in your business longer. You post on social media, a few scrolls or a few weeks and it's kind of gone. These are things that can go on your website, like brand messaging. Customer testimonials are huge because we're all gonna say great things about ourselves. But when someone else can say it, it goes a lot, a lot further for people watching. Process videos, FAQ videos are huge. Things that will actually save you time. So if you're finding yourself getting asked the same question over and over, just make a quick video, and that way you can send it out and do more high leverage activities in your business.
Do you feel like there is a recommended length of time or, total running time for the video depending on the platform you're using too? Like, what would you recommend for like lengthwise for social? And if you feel like each social platform could probably differ, I'm sure shorter, obviously Twitter, you can only go so long on Twitter. They have, a max, but do you have like a recommendation?
It's funny, I've actually never used Twitter, so I don't know it. And Threads, I don't know.
I'm with you on that. I'm still figuring that out too.
Every time I log in, I'm like, I'm out. I just can't do it. But I with length of video, I think I always tell people it needs to be as long as it has to, but as short as it can be. And I think it really depends on obviously the platforms have different time limits, but as long as it's engaging and you are keeping you're not wasting time introducing yourself, because you don't need to tell people your name every time you start a video. Just get to write what you're talking about, and don't bore the person. I think you can go a little bit longer if it's engaging. But also the deeper that a customer gets in your what I call like the decision-making process, the more time you earn with them. So on social, it's usually a lot shorter. So I think on Instagram, you have a minute and 90 or a minute and 30 seconds. And I usually say 45 seconds is kind of the ideal for a good social post. But then that's the person just becoming aware of you and you saying, hey, I'm here, notice me. But once they noticed you and they go to like your website, you have a little bit more time to say, here, watch this brand message video, or I want to tell you what we're really about here. And then once they watch that and they want to learn more, a testimonial can also be 2 to 3 minutes. And, and then if you get to their process, if they want to say, okay, I like everything people are saying, but I need to know even more, and they're really just kind of binging everything that you have, you can do a 5-minute FAQ video or learn about our process. Because I don't know if you have, but I'll watch actually, this is a microphone. I watched like 4 hours of content on just this little microphone before I bought it because I got more interested in it. So I think it's really just creating videos for different stages of that customer decision-making process, and letting that kind of guide how long they are.
That's perfect. So how can small businesses or even startups use video to compete with larger, more established brands?
I think first you want to figure out if you want to compete with those brands. I think I try to think of, like, for me, I have no interest in competing with a large brand in LA. If you're a local brand, you don't really have to worry. If you're like, this probably doesn't even exist, but say you make like a beverage in Buffalo, you don't necessarily need to compete with Coca-Cola. You can't compete with them, but you just focus really hyper local on who you can serve, and then start talking about what makes you unique in being smaller. And it's usually agility. You can usually post and make a lot more stuff a lot faster because there's not so many different levels of approval and things like that. And I think a lot of people kind of understand that a smaller brand is able to spend a little bit more time and take a little more attention to detail and care a little bit more than if a huge brand. But you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot in case you ever do become a larger brand and you spend so much time talking down on big brands, things like that. So I think there's a fine balance, but I think it's really just, being more agile, being more, just being in front of people more, and kind of explaining and being more like hyper focused on the customer, not over your whole brand.
Perfect. So could you talk a little bit about a successful video strategy maybe you've implemented for your business or helping other businesses, and what type of results it drove?
I can think of, there's a local vending agency, and what they do is they go in and they kind of transform people's break rooms. So it's not just the normal, vending machine that sucks. They actually come in every day with new food. It's a great service, but they reached out to me and said, hey, let's talk, because they saw some videos I was posting on LinkedIn. So going back to why you should post if you're not, I wasn't necessarily searching for a job, but this was a very lucrative opportunity just because they saw something on my LinkedIn. And he said, if I'm noticing you, you can help me get noticed by other people. But we sat down and they originally wanted just to do a little social series and things like that. And I said, let's think a little more strategically about how we can use video in your process, not only in your marketing, but also internally, and what's going to save you time and be more consistent. So we made brand message videos. We did some customer testimonials so they can use, they send out before their meetings with people. They say, hey, before we hop on this call, before we meet, just watch these quick videos. And that way, when people get into the meeting, they just saved like an hour's worth of talking and having to convince someone why they're great because they've showed everything they're about. They've had customers talk great about them. Now it's just kind of talking about things that are a lot more important. And that to save them a lot of time and makes, when you save time, obviously you can do more and get more sales. And then we also made a lot of videos that noted that came up when their customers were having not necessarily issues, but they were having a hard time understanding how these things worked. They were implementing into their workplaces. So instead of spending so much time on the phone answering all these questions for people, we just made like tutorials or here's how this process works that then they could give to their customers, or when their customers talking to them, they can use it as a selling point and saying, hey, even if we put this in and you have questions, if we're not available, we give you these video assets that you can use and be more successful. And then video strategy can go really deep. So we also did employee testimonial videos for their hiring efforts. We did onboarding videos. We did some training videos. That way, I think it's important that most businesses have some sort of SOP or standard procedures that every employee goes through. That way, no one can ever say, "Oh, no one told me that." If someone watched this thing, you don't have to worry about if the trainer or whoever was training this new employee was just having an off day or not. So in doing that, they have a lot more assets that they can use to attract more employees, save more time in doing that, and also make more sales.
Not only is the company making sure when it comes to like the onboarding stuff, not only is the company making sure that they've got their bases covered and they know this person's getting the appropriate information and getting educated, but also too because I've been on the other end as an employee watching these videos. So I feel like it gives a little bit of a more of an entertaining piece rather than sitting and watching somebody talk where you can easily, zone out, so it's a lot more, I think more entertaining too, to kind of include that stuff in the video content in business.
Yeah. And I think too, we've all been and watched that cheesy corporate video stuff. And if it's a smaller mid-sized brand that's local, if you can get people from the business in there, it's a lot more impactful when like you're watching the person who just hired you do this video. So you can like, oh, I'm gonna pay a little bit more attention to it. And also it does make you look like a little more established when you have things that aren't just bought from somewhere that are really generic. When they're very specific to the business itself, I think it goes a long way. Yeah.
Cool. In your opinion, what are the key elements of a video that can really truly elevate a brand?
I think one of the biggest elements is helping the viewer realize a potential future for themselves, and really help them visualize a transformation. So not just saying, hey, this is what we do, this is why we do it. This is like, if you work with us or if you work with me, this is what I want to help you achieve. This is what I've helped others achieve. And I think it's really important that you have a really strong idea of who is watching the video and the problems that they're facing, that you can solve in a unique way and really speak to that, versus just kind of shotgun approaching, like we do all these great things, and really just kind of focusing in on, here's how I'm going to make you better at something, or make you feel better, or have more peace of mind and things like that.
Oh, that's great. And can you share some common mistakes brands make in their videos and how to avoid them if someone's doing it on their own, shooting and filming?
Yeah. Do you want like technical mistakes or overall, like, I mean, there's
I would say, maybe a little bit of both. I mean, I trust your expertise on that. I mean, I know sometimes if people are shooting with their phones, like making sure like a phone is a certain way, depending, like Instagram, I think you're going to want it going like the the long way versus like moving it. And I don't know if some people realize that. So if there's any like little tidbits that you have in mind for like common mistakes that you maybe you see people make often.
Sure. I'll start out with like the ethereal things and kind of that businesses, I don't necessarily like to make mistakes. They just need to be reframed a little bit. And then I'll talk about some technical stuff. Sure. The vertical video thing is one of my biggest pet peeves, so I'll definitely like to touch on that. I think one of the biggest things is that a lot of businesses, and I'll use people too, because I think if we're trying to get hired, you are your own little brand. Um, a lot of times businesses think that video is going to do all the heavy lifting, and we're going to make this video, we're going to post it, people are going to watch it, and they're going to reach out and they're going to buy from us and love us. And that just doesn't happen, and it really shouldn't happen. If you think about how many times it takes someone to see something before they even like look at it or want to learn more about it, it takes a lot of consistency and also a lot of testing and figuring out what's going to connect them and retargeting and things like that. But I think businesses really should be looking at what they're doing really well and leveraging that in a video against their opportunities. So it can be like taking video in their process, like, hey, we're really good at this. Let's take those really good things and solidify them in a video, and then give them the people who maybe are struggling with that part of the process that they can start lifting up over here. But yeah, video is not going to be an end all be all for you, but it can make every part of your business a lot stronger, whether that be in saving time, being really consistent with your client experience. And, as long as you understand that you're not going to post it and it's going to work, you have to actually use it. So if it's a sales video, an FAQ video you want one of your salespeople to use, you can post on your website and it should, but it also should be part of the process of like, hey, you're going to hop on a call with a salesperson, but before you do, watch this quick 3-minute video. It's going to answer a lot of these questions and make our conversation a lot more meaningful. So I think that's number one, is video is not going to solve everything for you, but it can make everything better. I think also a lot of businesses and people make video about themselves. And I touched on this earlier, but a lot of people don't care about what we do or who we are. They care about how we can help them. And I think a lot of businesses spend time, because it is important to us how much effort and time we spend learning a skill. But, a lot of people don't necessarily care about where you went to school all the time or what tools you use. They want to know, can you use those tools to make my life better? And I think a lot of brands tend to overthink that people care a little bit more about them than they do care about themselves. So I always say, focus on your target audience, number one. And going into that, I don't think a lot of people know who their target audience is. And not just like, I help women of 30 to 40. You want to think about who these women are, like specifically a person. I say make a little like avatar or multiple avatars of like, are they moms? Do they have 2 kids? Are they working jobs and are they busy? And really try to think about who they are as a person so you can better craft that content to really connect with them and be less generic. Yeah, and then when it comes to social content, I think brands just don't do enough. I think because it's so easy to make a video and post it on social media, there's so much more competition in terms of attention out there. So you have to just do a little bit more work than everybody else to be seen and be noticed. I've had one of my clients, he reached out to me and I said, hey, how long have you been following me? And he said about a year. So it took a year of me posting. I posted daily for him to reach out. And I think a lot of times people get discouraged when they go, oh, I posted once a week for 2 months. And I'm like, you really should be posting like 3 times a week if you can, and make it valuable content. And I think a lot of times it's tough because you put so much time and effort and resources into making this content. So people think I'm going to make this one really good video and it's going to do what we want it to. And unfortunately, you just need a lot more content on social specifically to really stand out.
Well, I think that's a really powerful thing too to say, because it's so easy for people to get frustrated if they're posting stuff, and then kind of to your point of saying like it took somebody a year of observing content to like reach out. So I think it's really important for people to like not get discouraged too. Yeah. That message is getting out there. It just might take some time for that reel to come in.
And it's really hard to stay encouraged when your views aren't going that high, right? Especially with how the algorithms work. A few months ago, I was getting hundreds of thousands of views, which feels really good. they were all coming from India for some reason. So it doesn't really serve me at all, except inside it makes me feel a little bit better about myself. But now they're like 400 views, but I think they're more local views. And I think a lot of times people think of content, they want to optimize it for views, and they're not optimizing for their brand.
Okay.
So, you want to think about, how can I get as many of the right eyes on this, not just as many eyes as possible. Because if you're just trying to get a bunch of views, you might start straying from the path of what you want your brand to be and look like,
Hmm.
and end up hurting you in the long run if you start doing things that just don't feel like you. So I think it's really important to think about, yes, maybe my views are down, but those can be views that are right around the corner. I just had one of my newer clients. They don't get a ton of views. They have a newer social profile, but she said, I got recognized in the Dollar Tree parking lot the other day. So I'm like,
Wow.
so you don't know where those views are. And another one of my clients, he said that someone in another, she's a real estate agent, someone in another brokerage said, hey, just so you know, we watch your videos at our team meetings. So that's one view, but it's being cast a team of people. So you don't really
Right.
know. So as long as you're putting out valuable stuff and stuff that's going to make a difference, even if one person watches, I think that will go a long way over time. But I get it. It totally is kind of frustrating when, like, oh man, I got 100 views. But I'm like, have you ever had a room full of 100 people you had to talk to? And it's impossible. It's
Yeah.
terrifying. Or if you had to go tell 100 people that same thing, it would take you all day. So I think it's just kind of reframing um, what it means. You don't want to be necessarily viral, but viral for you. I think
Right.
that really helps.
Right. No, I think that that's huge and that's encouraging. I think to, whether someone's looking for a job or starting a business to
Mhm.
know that someone, it only takes one person to, even to watch something and, and kind of stream from there. But that's really awesome to, people getting recognized in a parking lot or, that
Yeah,
really,
and to me, that's way cooler than if I got 10,000 views. It's like, yeah, if
yeah.
you got recognized in person,
Oh
that's pretty
yeah.
crazy. And
In
when it
real
happens,
life.
it feels weird. Yeah. I've
In
had a
real
few
life.
people be like, I just watched you this morning. I'm like, I don't know who you are. That's really cool. And it's kind of a
Yeah.
unique experience. But yeah, I mean, I think, even going back to earlier in my business, I was posting, I said, I have time. This is what I want to do. Why not just start making a little weekly web series, which
Mhm.
led to that video strategy I talked about earlier. But essentially, I posted up, 2 seasons of it. So it was like, you know, I want to say it was like 20 videos, and one of them caught the attention of a business owner, and it led to $30,000. So it only takes one of the right things. And had I been
Right.
discouraged and not posted that, because no one else and no one was watching it, they weren't getting many views, but they got one view. It was the right view, and it made me, quite a bit of money for what we did. So I think you just kind of got to put your head down and have faith. And I think with anything, consistency over time gives you results.
That's awesome. And then what would you recommend or like, how do you see the future of video kind of going with, video marketing for businesses or individuals?
I think obviously we're going to see a lot of AI. We're seeing that already. And I don't think it's at the level of like, oh, it's going to take all of our jobs and things like that. If anything, it's going to make our jobs easier if we're open to learning about it. Um, because I've worked with businesses who are trying to use AI to do a lot for them, but it still needs someone to fact check it. And
Yeah.
it makes, because it's wrong sometimes.
Oh,
I
I've
was
seen
working,
that. I've
yeah.
seen that. Like, cause I mean, I'm a content creator and I just
Mhm.
recently actually made AI, oh my gosh, backwards here, AI class for, beginners with learning about AI. And yeah, I'm sure as you know too, it only has knowledge up until 2021 right now on top of that. So anything relevant to today is not there.
Yeah, and so it makes things up. I don't know if you've experienced this yet, but like one of my clients, we were making a video talking about different organizations that are resources to people, and I was editing it and I was trying to find a logo for this association, and I was like, I don't think this thing exists. And so I texted them and I was like, did you write the scripts with AI? And they're like, yeah, we use ChatGPT. I'm like, I don't think this thing exists, so we're just going to take it out. And granted, it sounded super legit, so I don't think anybody would have noticed. But
But
it
still,
potentially, if they're a big business, you can kind of look kind of dumb, especially if you have competition this season, going, oh, they're making things up. But I do think it will make content creation easier and faster, but you'll still need to make sure that you're able to implement it strategically into your business,
Right.
and making sure it doesn't look like AI did it, because that's one downfall, is that everything starts looking the same. Um, and you want to make sure that you're, again, optimizing for your brand and things like that. But I think video particularly is just going to become more and more important, um, just because that's what people are watching or looking at. And I think Threads is interesting because it's all text based, but people are going to start posting videos there. It's only a
I
matter of time,
Yeah.
because that's what stops people, especially when you're at a wall of text and you're reading through all these things and a video comes up, it just grabs your attention. I personally, I'm
Right.
biased, but I think it's the best way to convey ideas and personality in some sort of media. So I think if brands aren't adopting it yet, they're falling behind. Um, and it's never too late to start. It's always the best time to start. It's always getting worse.
I agree. And I mean, with Threads, obviously, brand spanking new, still trying to get used to it. But I do think we're a visual society as well. Um, you know, especially with keeping our attention
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
everything. So I can't imagine that it won't, somehow in some way incorporate video or even photography in some respect. But
Yeah, I tell a lot of people when they say, "Oh, I don't think we should be using video or anything like that." I'm like, think of some of your favorite people. How do you find them? And it's
mhm,
usually, oh, I saw them post this video here. I saw them on TV. It's like video is not going anywhere. It's one of the most recognizable things because it puts a face to a voice to words. Um, but yeah, I think the sooner someone can get on board with this, it doesn't have to be perfect. I always say make the best video you can or can afford to make. So start with your phone if you have to. Just make sure you're in a quiet area, it's lit decently, and make sure, as long if you're talking about something that's interesting, people are going to forgive how it looks. Sound is a little
right.
more important, but I think it's always good to just start and just have the belief that what you're doing is valuable to somebody, and it's tied to a goal that you have.
Perfect. Well, Tyler, thank you so much for being on the show. I think you've given our listeners, viewers, a lot of great input.
No, thank you. I hope that my ramblings helped somebody, or
Oh, it will.
gives anybody the wheels turning a little bit of how they can use video in their either job hunt or if they're running a business themselves. So